Hey, what's happening, guys? Good morning, YouTube. It is 4th of July, so happy 4th of July to everybody. Hope you guys, hopefully you guys have a fun day planned, maybe barbecue, spend some time with family or friends. But just wanted to get a quick article out there. I happened to stumble upon this one while I was having my coffee this morning. This article is from Reuters and came out yesterday, July 3rd, and it's titled, Amazon Can Be Held Liable for Third-Party Sellers, Rules a U.S. Appeals Court. And what's kind of interesting about this, up until recently, Amazon has kind of been able to kind of shield themselves in saying, like, hey, we're just a marketplace. Like, if somebody sells a defective good, or if somebody sells an item that winds up hurting or harming somebody, like, you know, we're just a platform that doesn't have anything to do with us. And it's kind of how a lot of these, like, I would almost compare this issue to kind of how a lot of those file sharing sites, whether it be Pirate Bay or whatever else, you know, they were kind of like, we're just a platform. We're not responsible for people uploading movies. And then ultimately courts kind of ruled against them. And then you know, now everybody's responsible for what gets posted on their platform. And another one just popped to mind. Backpage got taken down, was it last summer? And Backpage is like, we're just a classified site. We can't help it if prostitutes, you know, post their services on here. And, you know, then they enacted a rule which said, you know, you're basically responsible for whatever anybody posts to your platform. So I guess over the past couple of years, we've kind of seen a war on platforms, and you're no longer able to say, you know, in a variety of instances, you're no longer able to say, I'm just a platform. I'm not responsible for what people do on this platform. So anyhow, long story short, what this means, and this is a short article, so we'll give it a read, but essentially what this means is if a third-party seller on Amazon sells something that winds up hurting somebody, that third-party seller isn't the only one responsible. Amazon is also responsible. Now, up until this point, I believe several courts had ruled that Amazon was essentially immune from, I guess, actions of its third-party sellers, or they weren't responsible. Although what I'm not really sure about, I know, you know, ultimately anybody can sue anybody for anything. Although I do remember back in 2015 during the hoverboard craze, everybody was selling hoverboards on Amazon. And once hoverboards started catching on fire, and in particular, I think one of the bigger news stories, one of the first ones to happen, was actually a hoverboard purchased on Amazon that caught on fire. I know Amazon was drug into that lawsuit. I'm not sure if they won by saying, look, you know, go after the seller, we're just a platform. But I do know after that, Amazon heavily cracked down on basically nobody could sell hoverboards, period. And then it was nobody could sell hoverboards unless they were, was it UL certified? And I was selling hoverboard parts at the time, so I was selling like replacement gyroscopes, replacement motherboards, replacement wheels, and I believe for a long time they let me continue to sell everything but batteries, and then eventually they cracked down on the entire category. Nobody could sell anything. But anyhow, we'll give this article a quick read. But what I was kind of interested in, it'll be interesting to see kind of how this plays out. So is Amazon going to start gating more categories? Are they going to be quicker to suspend people who have issues with their products, since they're now also on the hook for issues like this? That'll be interesting to see. And then the other thing that'll be interesting to see is, do these types of policies carry over to other types of marketplaces? You know, eBay, Etsy, I guess with you know, I guess Walmart's marketplace. Will these policies carry over to other marketplaces? And again, we're going to give this article a read. One of the things that the court seemed to really kind of hone in on was the fact that Amazon third-party sellers can kind of hide from the customer. And you know, I think a lot of people, when they buy off Amazon, anytime they order something from Prime and it comes in an Amazon box, I think most people assume that that item came from Amazon, even though in reality well over half of the items come from third-party sellers. And this article and the court didn't really touch on this, but I think another thing that plays into kind of giving Amazon some responsibility is, you know, eBay is kind of a wide open marketplace. Like, yeah, there are some rules and things like that, but ultimately at the end of the day, you know, on eBay doesn't gate categories. eBay is less involved in interactions between the buyer and seller. When you sell on eBay, you have the customer's address and typically phone number. The customer has your address and phone number. They're making payment directly to you via your PayPal account, whereas in the case of Amazon, the customers are paying Amazon. Any customer service issues, they typically kind of resolve with Amazon, and Amazon collects the money and then passes it off to you. So I think compared to a lot of other marketplaces, Amazon is a lot more in the middle between the buyer and the seller. But also, again, this article in the court seems to state that one of the issues is that third-party sellers aren't very visible on Amazon, and Amazon is kind of the front man and thus has some responsibility. So the article goes on to say a federal appeals court on Wednesday ruled against Amazon.com Inc. in a case that could expose the online retailer to lawsuits from customers who buy defective products from third-party vendors through its website. Numerous other courts, including 2 federal appeals courts, have held that Amazon cannot be held liable as a seller of products from third-party vendors. The new ruling from the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Philadelphia, which reversed a lower court decision, appeared to be the first to buck that trend. Amazon did not immediately respond to requests for comment. In addition to selling its own inventory, Amazon allows third-party vendors to list products for sale on its website. Such vendors may store their products in Amazon's warehouses or ship them directly to customers. Now, that's another thing that I hadn't really thought about. Amazon also stores your goods. So, I suppose you could make the argument that maybe your goods go defective in the hands of Amazon if they're not being stored properly. So I guess that kind of gives Amazon even a little bit more culpability. Amazon earned about $11 billion in revenue from services it provided to third-party sellers. For the quarter ended in March, about half the items sold on Amazon are from third-party sellers. Database firm Statista reported, and I believe it's over 63% if I'm not mistaken. Liability for defective products is generally governed by state law, and Wednesday's decision is based on the laws of Pennsylvania, where the customer, Heather Oberdorf, lives. It's gratifying that the Third Circuit Court agreed with our argument and recognized that the existing interpretation of product liability law in Pennsylvania was not addressing the reality. The dominance that Amazon has in the marketplace, said David Wilk, Oberdorf's lawyer. So it's, I guess, upon reading this a second time, it seems like this might only affect Pennsylvania, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this carry over into other states, depending on how other states' product liability laws are written. Oberdorf sued Amazon in 2016 in a federal court in Pennsylvania, saying she was blinded in one eye when a retractable dog leash she bought through the company's website from a third-party vendor snapped and recoiled, hitting her in the face. The furry gang shipped the leash directly to Oberdorf from Nevada. Neither Oberdorf nor Amazon has been able to locate any representative of the furry gang, which has not been active on Amazon since 2016, according to court papers. So I'm guessing this was like a Chinese seller, and there's just nobody to really go after. In Wednesday's opinion, Circuit Judge Jane Richards Roth, writing for a 2-to-1 majority of the 3-panel, said Amazon may be liable in part because its business model enables third-party vendors to conceal themselves from the customer, leaving customers injured by defective products with no direct recourse to the third-party vendor. The panel sent the case back to the lower court, which will have to decide whether the leash was actually defective. So, even though I kind of talked a little bit about how Amazon is more in the middle of transactions, I guess that does kind of play to this as well. But it seems like the main issue is people are able to kind of set up Amazon accounts with relative anonymity, especially in the case of Chinese sellers. And then if there's issues with something, there's really nobody to go after. And Amazon is kind of the face or the person that you bought an item from. I think this should also kind of concern drop shippers. I think there's a lot of people drop shipping things who don't necessarily realize that they're kind of the face. They're the first point of contact. They're the first in line when problems come up, and not necessarily even for product liability issues. But I think a lot of people think drop shipping is carefree and risk-free. And what I've always kind of told people, and we're getting off on a little bit of a tangent, what I've always told people is like, when somebody buys something from you, when you're the person who's taking the money, you're the one that they're going to go to and complain. You're the one whose website they bought off of. So if you're buying low quality goods or defective goods, people are going to be doing credit card chargebacks. People are going to be coming to you for the return. You're kind of the first in line. You're the face. And that's kind of the same thing with Amazon here. But how do you guys think this will play out? Do you think Amazon will start gating more categories? Do you think they'll be stricter about kicking sellers off who have even minor issues with their products? It'll be interesting to see if this kind of carries across to other states, if it carries across to other marketplaces. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this issue. Go ahead and drop a comment in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate you guys watching. Have a happy and healthy and safe 4th of July, and we'll catch you on the next video.